Is there a path?
Of course. Look, the Congress did its work. It passed all 13 appropriations bills. The Republican Congress did last year. And the president now is threatening to veto the bill unless he gets $5.7 billion for the wall. He reached an agreement with the leaders, and then after Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh attacked him, he backed off of it. So there's clearly, Democrats have supported construction of walls in the past. We're seeing the numbers of illegal immigrants coming across the border in decline. This is a solvable problem, and they eventually, the closer they get to.
What does it take on both sides, and without relitigating the past at this point?
Well, how do you not relitigate the past? But leaving that ridiculous presumption aside, the problem here is the closer you get to November of 2020, and the members start to calculate, am I going to lose? Because there's two kinds of people down there: people who can count and people who lose. And it's the closer they get to the election, and you're getting close to the election.
But which is a bigger issue? The government. What's going to be remembered more? And this is a little bit, I think, part of the calculus that's going on right now, both on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. Which is to say, is it the government shutdown and what it may or may not mean to the economy and everything else, or is it going to be border security?
You can't. Well, next year it might be something entirely different. You can't ignore the fact that what happens is the president submits a budget, the Congress takes the budget, they break the numbers down, they assign numbers to the Appropriations Committee, and these things work their way through. And you can't. And next year it might be the president saying, I didn't get enough for missile defense, and I'm going to veto the bill.
I am going to make you Charles Schumer for a day. What are you going to do?
That's a scary thing to do. I thought we were friends.
I want to know. What are you going to do?
Well,
who are you calling? What are you saying?
Look, the problem. What would I do? I mean, I wouldn't do it necessarily as Charles Schumer. That's why I'm not, not the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. But there's a deal here. You give him $3 billion to the wall or something like that, and make some additional adjustment. It's what they had before. The burden really is on the president. Are you willing to reach an agreement that Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh aren't going to like? You can't get there unless you're willing to do that.
Meaning and the Democrats. You don't think there's any way to get to 5?
Well, I think you can. I'll repeat it. The closer you get to November 2020, the political people inside of each one of these Senate campaigns, I promise you, Mitch McConnell does not want to be the minority leader in 2021. And the closer you get to 2020, that's exactly what he's going to be staring at.
We're not talking about a government shutdown that's going to last months.
22 months
away. Wait, but the president said this could last years.
Do you think that's really? I mean, because when you start looking at the people who aren't getting paid and who aren't going to start showing up for
Becky,
work.
one of two things has to happen. The president says, I'll sign the bill, or the Republicans say, we're going to vote to override.
And that may be the more likely scenario. Judd Gregg said that he thinks eventually the senators and congressional leaders will get enough pressure that's coming in saying that.
It's not pressure. The closer they get to November 2020, you've got a half a dozen Republican senators who are going to say, I'm going to lose. And Mitch McConnell's going to say, if they lose, I'm in the minority. I don't want to be in the minority.
Call me a cynic, though. Right now,
you're a cynic.
For both sides, there's money to be made. Meaning, I believe that there's donations coming in on both sides from bases on the positions that are being taken right now. That there's almost we haven't got into a losing position for either side.
Oh, I think we're in a losing position on both sides right now. I don't think either one of these guys are covering themselves. I mean, the dust up between the Speaker doesn't understand security. If the Secret Service thinks it's a threat, don't let the president go down there. I mean, that looks like Sri Lanka's parliament, for God's sakes. You wonder at some point what's going to happen. The Republicans in the majority in the Senate are saying, we will not move a bill because the president's going to veto it. And at some point, they have to say to the president, we are going to move a bill. It may not be what you like, but we'll move a bill and we'll vote to override your veto. That's probably that's probably where it ends up.
That's what happens?
Well, I think the president's in a box. I don't think he can sign anything short of 5.7.
Well, you said $3 billion seems like a no-brainer compromise, but do you think that Speaker Pelosi is there at $3 billion? Is that really on the table from the Democrats?
I don't know. I mean, do I look like I know what Speaker Pelosi thinks?
It just seems as if there's not even that much movement.
No, I just think you're going to, in the end, the Republicans in the Senate are going to say to the president, you want 5.7, we can't get 5.7. We can get 3.5. We can get 3, whatever the number is. And they can't even spend that. Right? So it's like 1% of the total budget. I mean, my God, we still got entitlements coming behind this thing. We're taking something tiny like this and we can't resolve it. At some point, they're looking at numbers and say, we're going to lose the majority. We'll lose the majority unless we resolve it. We're going to send you a bill. If you veto it, you veto it.
Let me ask you
yes, please,
a separate question.
What does it mean when you say Joe is off? What does that mean?
Joe is
It's double meaning, actually.
Joe is traveling.
It's an ambiguous statement.
He's on his way. We're all winding up in Davos. We're all traveling at different points this weekend. So he's already starting his journey that direction.
Okay.
I have a question about the Democratic Party. I have a question about sort of the direction with which you think the party is going, whether it be the popularity of what everybody now we call her AOC or Elizabeth Warren. Sort of.
That used to be Barry Diller's company, wasn't it? Although it's IAC.
IAC.
Okay.
Yeah, close.
But what feels like a true move, even perhaps lurch to the left, and whether you think that that is a winning strategy.
I don't know. I mean, I saw some polling data yesterday that said the majority of Americans support 70% income tax. I don't know. It's entirely possible. I think what the president and the Republicans have done with the Affordable Health Care Act probably does increase the popularity of a single-payer health care bill. It probably does. Probably the people themselves are saying, we don't like Obamacare. You persuaded us Obamacare is bad, but give me the opportunity to do a buy-in. And it may be that because the problem is people are struggling with the cost of health care. And you don't like Obamacare, you want to repeal Obamacare, what's your alternative? And it's entirely possible the public themselves will say we want something that appears today to be pretty radical.
But the reason I ask that is that if, in fact, that were to be the case and they were to be in power, that would have a radical impact on investors, capital formation, all of it.
Yeah, well, look, I think that for me personally, I think the big thing the Democrats cannot do is give up on national security. If we appear to be weak on security, whether it's domestic security having to do with immigration or international security having to do with foreign policy, if that's how we come out, I think we got a problem.
Well, that gets you back to the wall discussion. Do you end up in a position where you give $0 to border security?
No,
whatever the broad definition of that
No, I mean, look, I personally, the biggest problem with border security are the point of entries. That's where the illegal drugs are coming in, and we get technology that it looks like it's pre-computers. So so if the Democrats have to have a rational response to security in general, that the American people say is a good idea.
Do you have, real quick before we let you go,
Yes.
a view on where this whole China back and forth is going to land by March 1st?
I don't know. I thought it was a really interesting op-ed by these two guys from the American Enterprise Institute, and I happen to agree with it, which is kind of a dangerous proposition, basically saying the tariffs don't get the job done, but China is unquestionably an existential threat, and you have to recognize that and deal with it, and probably deal with it on a multilateral basis.
On a multilateral basis?
I think so. It's very difficult to do it just with the United States. It's impossible to do it without us. We do have to take the lead in it. I just don't think tariffs are the right idea.